What is going on, everybody? We're back with the Autumn of Agony Week 4. That's against Heimdall. What I'll do is I'll start off by kind of breaking down the nodes. I don't just want to read them to you. That's no fun. So the main idea is, number one, you're rooted when he throws a heavy attack. He's unstoppable when he throws those heavy attacks. And then most importantly, he has what's called a brace buff or passive, in which case he'll basically resist the end of your heavy attacks and the ends of your special attacks, and you can only do damage by knocking him down with special attacks. So what you have to do is essentially kind of give him a light tap during the middle of his heavy attacks, so that'll send that buff into cooldown, and then you can attack freely with your special attacks. You also get disorient effects whenever you dash back too quickly, which does happen often. So all those things combined make for a pretty tricky fight. It's not the most difficult, it's actually kind of a lot of fun. To be honest with you, the AI here is probably the most annoying part. But once you get past that, it's pretty chill, and so I'll kind of walk you through how we're going to do that. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm starting off with the She-Hulk fight. I'm going to go over all the different champions and objectives. But She-Hulk doesn't really bypass any, so it's a good start-off point to kind of teach you how the nodes work. So there's the rooted special attack, and see how I threw a light attack after the first strike? That's how you're going to deactivate the brace node, and so it's on cooldown right now, it's about to run out, so I'm going to let him throw another one. So now it's active. Now this is the danger zone, is to have him throw a special while the brace buff is active, because next time he throws a heavy attack or a special attack, there's no dexing it, and if you get knocked down, the battery is going to unleash on you instead of on him. So keep that in mind. The goal is to essentially have him throw a heavy attack, bait out a heavy attack while he's just below a bar of power, throw in that little tap just to deactivate the brace passive, then let him throw as many special attacks as you can fit into that cooldown. It's one or two, just depends on how active he is in throwing the specials at you. And then once the brace buff reactivates, have him throw another heavy attack so you can fit it in. So this is something you can notice too, something really helpful is when he throws those special ones, in order to prevent him from essentially gaining his true sense, is you're going to want to try to counter his special ones with your heavy attacks. So see how I try to fit those in right here? Because once you back up twice, which happens a lot during his special attacks or during his heavy attacks, you're going to get that disorient passive, which may prevent you from getting a parry. And if you don't get a parry, and he's got true sense active, there's a solid shot he's going to throw a heavy attack at you. And then there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. That's kind of the design of the fight. So the way to work around that is when he throws his special ones, try to kind of get your spacing down. That way you can throw your heavy attacks and knock him down, essentially. So you'll get rid of that. So here it goes again. What you want to kind of think about is you want to be right outside the edge of his blade when he throws a special attack. So right outside the edge, that gets you close enough. At least with She-Hulk. It works with Dragon Man, it works with Beta Ray Bill, works with Bullseye. Those are the three other champions that I used for this. But that's pretty much the gist of the fight. And so as I go through the other ones, there's going to be a couple things that can be countered. That way it makes the fight a little bit easier with a couple of the objectives. But realistically, this fight can be done with anyone. Alright, so moving on to Dragon Man. The fight pretty much starts the exact same way. So you can either start with a parry or start attacking, however you want to do that. Then I usually kind of try to get him right beneath a bar of power, just like so. Deactivate the brace. Let him throw special attacks. Counter with my heavy attack. And with Dragon Man, what's cool is you get the unblockable on your heavy attacks. And so you can go right in immediately with your specials. And then what's really neat is with Dragon Man's Special 1, you actually get the slow debuff, which stops Heimdall from being unstoppable. Like the unstoppable will still appear, but you can hit him as if he's not, just like that. And so you can actually just keep countering him like that using your special ones if you want to do that. You can always go to your special 2s or special 3s. And there's the heavy attack again, special 1. You'll see the slow debuff. And so now he has the brace active, but there's me countering him because he's slowed. And so that's what kind of makes the fight real nice with Dragon Man, is that you can just keep the slow debuff going as best you can, and you don't have to worry about the heavy attacks nearly as much. Sorry, this is my first time with Dragon Man, and I wasn't getting the heavy counters to the special ones. I wasn't getting close enough. But that's essentially the fight with Dragon Man. You can always do kind of normal fight if you're getting used to the nodes, fine, but that does help out a lot. See, just like that, countered his heavy attack because he was slowed. So it's real nice. Now with Bullseye, the fight is pretty darn similar to that of She-Hulk. Bullseye doesn't really have anything that's super significant or special that allows him to counter any of the nodes that are going on here, so you do have to do the fight pretty much as normal. Bullseye does surprisingly have a pretty strong special 3 damage, so you know, that's something you can do, just go straight to special 3s. The only other thing that you do kind of have, I would say, that's better than just battling the nodes, is you have a safety net in your that green evade passive. Sorry, I'm totally forgetting what that's called right now. But the automatic evade during that is really nice, because say he does throw a heavy attack and you weren't quite ready for it, as long as that's active, then it's going to essentially go off, and you can actually get the deactivation of the brace passive that way. So that's definitely something to consider. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that the brace passive cooldown is also paused when you're throwing your heavy attacks or special attacks, like so. And so you can kind of wind that timer down to fit in as much damage into the battery right before you throw it off. So definitely something to consider. If you like storing up damage and then releasing it all at once, it's a really good way to fit it all in there. That way you're not, you know, sometimes it feels like you're not making very much progress with fights like these if you're just kind of chunking them down by 5 or 10%. But getting a nice 15, you know, a huge blast in there with the battery is super nice. So it's something you can do as well. What we'll do is we'll move on to the final fight. And that is going to be with Beta Ray Bill. So now Beta Ray Bill absolutely demolishes this fight. For a similar reason that Dragon Man does really well, is Beta Ray Bill has access to the Grit passive on his heavy attacks, so that allows him to fight unstoppable opponents as if they were not. So that means that every heavy attack that Heimdall throws, you can simply counter with your own heavy attack, and you'll deactivate the brace buff, and you'll knock him down just fine. And that way, you can essentially do your rotation like normal. So as long as you can fit your special 2 into the brace cooldown, you're totally fine to do as you please that way. I think this was one of my earlier fights, so I wasn't countering his special attacks, which I definitely could have been doing. So there's the Grit passive, or Grit buff. And once you've done your special 2, that buff is permanent until you run out of your charges. And then you can just absolutely demolish with your special 1s. And so Beta Ray Bill's a ton of fun for this fight. He makes it pretty darn simple. He might be a good one to start with if you're thinking about, you know, maybe not want to get used to all the nodes. You want to kind of figure some stuff out first. Really good one to start with. Does a tremendous amount of damage. Granted, this is a 7-star rank 3. Nonetheless, Beta Ray Bill does a ton of damage, as you can see there, and makes the fight quite a breeze. But those are pretty much the tactics for this fight. Champions that work really well. Most champions, like I said, can do this. There's one I'm particularly upset about, and that's Tigra. Doesn't completely work. That's because the nodes aren't explained perfectly well. I'm going to make a separate video on that, why she doesn't work. It's essentially that Heimdall, the nodes say he's not immune to neutralize, but he is immune to ability accuracy reduction from neutralize. But when you actually fight him with Tigra and you strike him, it shows as immune, which is lame. And that's definitely not how it should be. Either Tigra should work or they should change the language for it. It's just something that's kind of annoying me. But that's going to be the... Oops, sorry, not quite the end. Probably one more special 1 or 2. Not sure why I didn't just fit that in there. The battery probably would have killed him. Again, this is probably one of the earlier fights. And that's the end of it. And that's it, guys. Best of luck in the battle realm, my friends.